would be great.
Okay, we're rolling.
Great. Thanks so much for making the time to speak to me, especially it's, 8 a.m. your time?
It is.
So I appreciate it's a little early for you.
You're welcome.
Look, I'll try and keep it quick. I just want to get an understanding, a professional, expert understanding of what exactly maladaptive daydreaming is. I talked to, I think Natalie Switala. I've had to talk to her about her personal experience, and now it'd be great to kind of get, obviously you know more about it probably than anyone else. So if you could give me maybe an explanation of, what's different between maladaptive daydreaming and regular daydreaming?
Okay. Well, like any other disorder, traits lie on a continuum from normal to abnormal. So in that respect, people, of course, can be sad, and that doesn't mean that they are mentally ill, but it all depends on the intensity and to what degree does it cause distress, and to what degree does it cause malfunction or dysfunction. So daydreaming, of course, is a very normal and prevalent mental activity. We all daydream many times during the day, our minds wander and so on. But when daydreaming becomes compulsive, when it occupies many hours a day, when people feel a yearning, a craving to daydream when they are not, when they prefer to daydream rather than do some other tasks or chores, when that creates distress because they are not in control, and when that interferes with their job or with their social life, then we're talking about a problem.
What kind of impacts do people with maladaptive daydreaming normally have? What do you commonly hear?
Well, because they feel so compelled to daydream, apparently it's a lot of fun, and we could talk about that. I mean, why does it become such an addiction, I would dare say? They give it priority to other responsibilities. And it is particularly appealing to individuals who have other emotional issues, people who are otherwise socially anxious or withdrawn, people who are lonely, or people who suffer from some other kind of mental pain, for example, memories of adverse childhoods. So daydreaming can become soothing, can become a compensatory experience, particularly, and this is what we are talking in this case, we're talking about a capacity to daydream so vividly, a capacity, for example, that I don't have, that people feel totally immersed and present. And unlike other mental disorders such as schizophrenia, where people have visions, apparitions, hallucinations, in the case of maladaptive daydreaming, people are in complete control over their scenarios and the plots. It is volitional, and people who have this, to whom I've talked to, report that it is extremely satisfying and soothing, and so what the implication of this is that not only people with problems would be tempted, but everyone who has this ability and discovers it tends to be drawn. It's so rewarding to repeat the experience.
And sorry, just 1 second. No, that's fine.
You're okay.
So Dr. Stoner's recording on his end, and that's all working, so it's not a problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great. Sorry about that. Now, I want to understand as well, because obviously this kind of emerged out of, you were already an expert in the broader field, and it kind of emerged in your research as separate to other dissociative disorders. Is that right? So what exactly is it that makes it separate to, what was previously understood?
Okay. You are correct in stating that I am an expert in dissociative disorders. These are usually disorders that emerge following substantial, extensive childhood trauma. And in the beginning of the millennium, I noticed that part of my clientele report this extensive daydreaming So it's this form of a dissociative absorption, a disconnection from external reality and focusing internally. And up until that point, absorption was not thought as a disorder. It was thought of as a normal mental behavior. So here we have a case in which absorption can become pathological. So it is not a dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality, although the protagonists in these scenarios could be, of course, aspects of the self or a wished ideal self of sorts. So it's a unique dissociative disorder, but what is unique about it is that it's also a behavioral addiction, like gambling or sexual addiction. So people report that they need to do it more and more. They have a craving for it when they are interrupted or when they cannot daydream. They feel a withdrawal, and it compromises their functioning. So it meets the definition of a behavioral addiction. What sort of a behavioral addiction? It's a dissociative behavioral addiction. But again,
and how far?
Go ahead.
Sorry, what was that?
Go ahead.
Oh, how far along are we? I mean, this is obviously a relatively recent development for yourself, and I guess there's been a few other people who, since you identified it, have been looking into it. What is the stage right now? I mean, how well recognised is maladaptive daydreaming as a disorder?
It is not. It is very new. I mean, the seminal paper in which I coined the term was published in 2002, but then there was a lull in publication because I dropped it. The scientific community had no interest in it. It was not quoted, the paper, so I dropped it. But then something very interesting happened. People who suffer from this kind of phenomena started Googling. I mean, this was the age of the internet. Googling compulsive daydreaming, extensive daydreaming, and they identified the paper. And I started getting requests from sufferers globally. Please, Dr. Sommer, offer us some advice. Or please help us get some help. We go to doctors and we're being dismissed and it's not recognized. So this motivated me to go back to do some research on this. And since this seminal paper in 2002, we have 9 more papers have been published, some of them in very good peer-reviewed scientific journals. So we're making headway. I think we have established fairly well that it is a reliable condition, that it is different from other disorders, that it can be reliably diagnosed. But the field is in an embryonic state. It's in infancy. And I hope that my work will inspire others to continue to do research on this, because there are countless of individuals out there who are crying for help, and they get misdiagnosed and ineffectively treated for other disorders because it's not schizophrenia. It's something unique, and it should be treated. It should be treated as a mental addiction, and there are treatments for that already existing, a behavioral addiction. But if there are underlying issues, such as social anxiety or childhood trauma issues, that of course needs to be addressed. Similar to situation in which, for example, people are treated for substance addiction. It's not enough to just make people quit. You need to address the underlying issues for which they're treating themselves with.
Thanks so much for your time, Professor Sommer. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on that I haven't mentioned?